My dad always said, "Son, this land isn't just dirt and fences. It's our family's heart." He spent his life working our family farm, a beautiful stretch of land that had been in our name for generations. It wasn't huge, but it was everything to us. When he passed away, he left it to me. The responsibility felt immense, but so did the pride. I planned to keep his legacy alive, maybe even expand the organic vegetable operation he'd started. The farm was my connection to him, a place filled with memories of us fixing fences, herding cattle, and watching sunsets from the porch of the old farmhouse. The trouble started subtly. I knew upscale housing development sprang up on the adjacent property. They called it Cypress Creek Estates. At first, I didn't think much of it. Progress, I guess. But then came the Homeowners Association, the HOA. The only access to my farm was a gravel road that had been there longer than anyone could remember. It cut across a corner of the land they now owned, but for over a century, a legal easement had guaranteed our right-of-way. It was clearly documented, filed, and had never been an issue, until now. One morning, I drove down to the farm to check on the irrigation system and found my path blocked. A heavy, ornate iron gate stood where the gravel road began, complete with a shiny new Cypress Creek Estates private property sign. My heart sank. There was a keypad, but no code, and no one in sight. I tried calling the developer's number on the sign, but it went straight to a generic voicemail. This wasn't just an inconvenience, this was a declaration of war. They had effectively locked me out of my own land, my heritage, my father's legacy. I spent the next few days making calls. I finally got in touch with the HOA president, a woman named Karan who spoke to me with the kind of condescending tone you'd use on a misbehaving child. I explained the situation, mentioned the legal easement, and politely asked for the gate code or a remote. She flatly refused. She said the road was now part of their exclusive community and that my farm traffic was a nuisance and a safety hazard to their residents. She suggested I find alternative access. The only other way to my property was through miles of dense, unforgiving woods and over a creek. It was impossible for a vehicle, let alone farm equipment. I felt a surge of anger I hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't just about a road, it was about respect. They saw my farm as a blight on their perfect suburban paradise. I sent them a registered letter with a copy of the easement deed, highlighted and annotated by my lawyer. I explained, very clearly, that they were illegally obstructing my access and that if the gate wasn't opened, I'd be forced to take legal action. Their response came a week later, a letter penned by their high-priced attorney. It was full of legal jargon, but the message was simple. They were revoking the easement. They claimed it was obsolete and that my commercial activities violated the spirit of their residential community. They were essentially daring me to sue them, knowing full well that a legal battle would be long and expensive. They thought they could bully me into giving up, that I'd just sell the land to them for a fraction of its worth and disappear. They underestimated me. They underestimated my connection to that land. My lawyer, a good old boy named Frank who'd known my dad for years, looked over their letter and just chuckled. "They're trying to scare you, son," he said. "They can't just revoke a deeded easement. That's not how property law works." He advised me that while we could sue, there was a faster, more direct, and perfectly legal solution. It was a loophole in the law they'd clearly overlooked in their arrogance. It was time to stop playing defense. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. The easement granted me the right to use the road for access, but the land the road was on, it wasn't mine. It belonged to the HOA. However, the strip of land that the road connected to, the very entrance of the road from the main county highway, was part of my property line. For decades, it was just an open shoulder everyone drove over. It had never been formally designated as part of the road itself. It was my land, so the next weekend, I rented a backhoe. I also had a truckload of massive, decorative boulders delivered, the kind you see in high-end landscaping. On a Saturday morning, bright and early, I got to work. I drove the backhoe right to the entrance of their precious community road, right where it met the county highway. And I started digging a deep, wide trench. I dug right across the entrance, severing their connection to the main road. It took a few hours of satisfying work, the roar of the engine a sweet sound of justice. Once the trench was complete, I carefully placed the boulders along the edge of it on my side of the property line. It looked almost decorative, like a rustic, protective border for my property. But the effect was absolute. No car could get in or out. I hadn't touched their gate. I hadn't trespassed on their property. I had simply reclaimed the full, unencumbered use of my own land. It didn't take long for the chaos to begin. The first sign of trouble was a luxury SUV that screeched to a halt just feet from my new trench. The driver, a man in golf attire, got out and stared in disbelief. Soon, more cars started piling up behind him. Phones came out. People started yelling. It was a beautiful sight. Within an hour, my phone was ringing off the hook. It was Karen, the HOA president, and she was hysterical. "What have you done?" she shrieked into the phone. "You've trapped us. This is illegal." "I'm calling the police." I remained calm. "Karen," I said, my voice dripping with mock concern, "I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm just doing a bit of landscaping on my own property. You know, to prevent people from trespassing." I paused for effect. "By the way, I still can't get to my farm. Your gate is still blocking my legal right-of-way. Once you remove that illegal obstruction, I might be able to find the time to, fill in this trench. Maybe." The police did show up. A couple of deputies rolled up, looked at the trench, looked at the line of angry, wealthy homeowners, and then came over to talk to me. I calmly showed them my property survey maps and the deed. I explained that I was merely securing the border of my land. I pointed out that the HOA's property didn't actually have direct frontage on the county road. It only touched my land. They had always just driven over my property to get to their road. The deputies looked at my paperwork, conferred with each other, and then went back to talk to the HOA crowd. I couldn't hear everything they said, but I saw the lead deputy shrug and gesture towards my trench. The message was clear. It was a civil matter, and I was within my rights. The homeowners were apoplectic. They were trapped in their own exclusive community. Emergency services couldn't get in. They couldn't go to work, go shopping, or pick up their kids. Their perfectly manicured world had come to a grinding halt. The standoff lasted to glorious days. Their fancy lawyer called me, threatening every lawsuit imaginable. I just referred him to Frank. The news stations even showed up, filming the line of cars and the angry residents. The story of the farmer who turned the tables on the snobby HOA was just too good to pass up. I was painted as a local hero, a David against Goliath. Finally, on Monday morning, I got a call. It was a different voice, a man who introduced himself as the developer who had built the community. His tone was much more conciliatory. "Look," he said, sighing, "it seems we've had a misunderstanding. The HOA board acted without our full consultation. This has become a public relations nightmare." "Has it?" I asked innocently. "We are prepared to remove the gate immediately and issue a formal, public apology for blocking your legal access," he said. "We will also cover your legal fees. In return, we need you to fill in that trench so our residents can get out." I thought about it for a moment, savoring the victory. "All right," I said, "you have a deal, but one more thing. I want a permanent, physical key and 2 remotes for the new gate, and I want the HOA charter amended to explicitly state that my easement is permanent and cannot be interfered with, ever again." He agreed without hesitation. An hour later, a crew arrived and began dismantling the iron gate. As soon as it was gone, I hopped back on the backhoe and filled in the trench. I even smoothed it out nicely for them. As I worked, the residents just watched from their cars, their faces a mixture of anger and defeat. That afternoon, I drove my old pickup truck down the gravel road to my farm for the first time in weeks. The air felt cleaner, the sky bluer. I parked by the old farmhouse and walked out to the porch, looking out over the fields. My dad's farm was safe. I knew he would have been proud. He always taught me to stand up for what's right, and that sometimes, you have to get your hands a little dirty to protect what's yours. And in this case, it felt really, really good. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.